What comes to your mind when you hear the word time? Do you immediately think of the deadlines at work, dreading that you might never have enough time to do everything in time? Conversely, have you ever felt like time just passes you by? Like your days were slipping away while you had nothing to show for them? Hello everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode on my channel, Wonder Boho Book Club. Today I'll be summarizing the book, Time and How to Spend It, The 7 Rules for Richer, Happier Days, written by James Wallman. This book was published in 2019 and was declared Book of the Year by Financial Times. James Wallman is a journalist, trained forecaster, speaker, and author. In this book, he has drawn our attention to the fact that while we as a society obsess endlessly over increasing productivity and maximizing our working hours, we often tend to overlook an important aspect of our life: the effect that our free time has on how efficiently we work. According to the author, rather than obsessing over maximizing productivity at work, choosing healthier free time activities can dramatically improve our work ethic. In other words, adding happiness to our lives is less about the choices we make at work and more about the choices we make outside of work. Combining practical life advice with scientific research, Time and How to Spend It is a powerful tool to help us choose our leisure activities more wisely, thereby spending more quality time each day with ourselves and those around us. Introduction. Research has shown that an average human being has more than 5 hours of free or leisure time a day. Then why do we feel so hard-pressed for time? According to the author, the main reasons why we feel so time-poor are: 1. We earn more, so time feels more expensive and scarce. When we have opportunities of earning substantial amounts of money in a given time, we feel gravitated towards earning that extra money, thereby foregoing spending quality time with family or friends. 2. Busyness is a status symbol. Important people are busy, so we want to be busy too. Hence, we inundate ourselves with work, which might include sending emails at midnight and working on Sundays. 3. We are constantly bombarded by incoming emails, both work-related and promotional, texts, tweets, and 24-hour news and gossip updates. 4. There is always something new to watch online, always some new place to visit, always some latest trend to follow, etc. This non-stop comparison between what we can do and what others are doing versus what we are doing is making us anxious. This anxiety is often called FOMO, or fear of missing out. 5. We try to accomplish too much within too short a time by multitasking, both at work and at leisure time. For example, checking Facebook while playing with our kids in the park. As a result, we end up contaminating our leisure time. That is, we are not able to enjoy either of the activities to the fullest. 6. Studies have shown that we now spend, on average, 3.5 hours a day online. Comparing that with the 5 or so hours of disposable time we have every day, we are spending way more than half of it glued to our screens. Once we have unhooked from our devices, we have only got about 2 hours of leisure time left. No wonder we feel so hard-pressed for time. 7. We live in a society that worships capitalism. The business of capitalism is, first and foremost, business. Capitalism cares about work, productivity, and GDP. So schools and universities and night schools and online courses focus on teaching us how to be more productive and efficient at work. Too few bother to explain how we should spend our free time anymore. Part 1. Choosing better experiences. We live in a world that places a high value on work and productivity, but it seems they aren't the only important things in life, especially when it comes to feeling happy and satisfied. According to multiple studies from institutions like Harvard Business School and Cornell University, what really brings happiness into people's lives are experiences. Also, conventional wisdom usually tells us that happiness is a byproduct of success, and yet a lot of evidence suggests that it's actually the other way around. That is, happiness is a strong precursor to success. What all of this adds up to is that experiences lead to happiness, which in turn leads to success. So, to achieve success, we should try to have positive experiences. The question then becomes, what is a positive experience, and how can we introduce more of them into our lives? Part 2. Choosing experiences that add to your heroic life story. In this book, the author has put together a checklist for how to make better choices about our free time, so that we feel more fulfilled and start living a more meaningful life. According to him, checklists help us make a difficult task easier by helping us stay aware of the situation. His findings are the result of speaking to some of today's leading researchers and bringing together studies from a variety of sources, including the London School of Economics, Harvard, Stanford, Cambridge, and Cornell. He has also come up with the acronym STORIES in this regard. According to him, the 7 letters of this acronym are the 7 pillars that will help us reclaim the direction of our lives. STORIES stand for story, transformation, outside and offline, relationships, intensity, extraordinary, status and significance. When considering whether or not an activity is going to be a worthwhile way of spending our time, the first question we should ask ourselves is, how does this experience impact my life story? Any valuable experience will add to our story by ticking off one or all of the items on the stories checklist. For example, the author had a transformational and intense experience when he went to a yoga retreat in India. He says that these kinds of experiences often change us from inside, as they make us realize who we really are, and may even change the course of our life in a completely new direction. Here, the author talks about the hero's journey that has been portrayed in so many forms across cultures and civilizations all over the world since time immemorial, while the underlying symbolic motives have remained the same. There are 2 popular versions of all the heroic stories we find so satisfying. The first is called The Man in a Hole story, introduced by the American writer Kurt Vonnegut Jr. It suggests that every hero in a narrative starts out in a good place, then gradually sinks into a hole of misfortune before being restored to good fortune by the end of the story. The other version of the story is what scholar Joseph Campbell calls the hero's journey, which is a more circular tale. It starts out in the ordinary world, where the hero, who was until now leading a normal and tranquil life, accepts a call to action that requires perseverance through many trials and tribulations. He might have been ignoring this call to action earlier, but then finally wakes up to it because of some epiphany or profound experience. Answering the call, the hero ventures out into the unknown. He learns new skills, overcomes the supreme ordeal, receives a reward, and returns home. In the end, he shares the gifts and wisdom he acquired, and in doing so, forever changes the ordinary world into a new world. By placing ourselves in the hero's role, we can realize the true purpose of our lives, and at the same time, be able to see the trials and tribulations that we face in life in a more positive light. These are nothing but the stepping stones to success by reaching our goals and slaying the metaphorical dragon. Part 3. Finding fulfillment through change and transformation. The next item on the checklist is transformation. Once we see ourselves from the hero's perspective, we can feel ourselves transforming. At this stage, the psychologist suggests us to consider two simple questions. A. Looking back over the past 10 years, how much do you think you have changed on a scale of 1 to 10? And B. How much do you think you'll change over the next 10 years? For most of us, the number in the first answer is higher than in the second. This condition is known in psychology as end-of-history illusion, which means we tend to think of change as something happening in the past, not in the future. What we need to realize here is that change is an inevitable part of life, and it is change and transformation that lead to a more fulfilling life. So, instead of resisting change, we should actively seek it out by finding experiences that bring new inspiration, new skills, and other transformative elements into our lives. The author explains this further with the example of vacationing. Having been associated with the tourism industry for several years, he says that there are basically 3 ways we can approach a vacation: fly and flop, find and seek, or go and become. With fly and flop, the main objective is to escape the stress of our day-to-day lives, even if for a few days, and enjoy the other world, that is, where we can just relax without doing anything. Personal development is not on the menu here. Example: fly to a 5-star resort in the Caribbean and enjoy sunbathing while reading magazines and eating tropical fruits. While the trip might be relaxing, it doesn't add much to your life story. Find and seek involves more active engagement. Here, we put on our explorer's hat and travel to new places. The main goal here is to see new things like the pyramids of Giza, or maybe attend a music festival like Burning Man. Using this approach, we might have some pretty interesting stories to tell, but the experiences would be quite commonplace. The go and become approach, however, offers a real chance for transformation. In this approach, we turn our vacation into an opportunity for learning inspirational things about different cultures and customs, or acquire new skills like cooking, skiing, ski jumping, etc. It might also involve a spiritual retreat of some kind, where we discover the transformative power of meditation and self-introspection. Whatever the case may be, it will include very personal and possibly very transformational experiences, and therefore a great story. Part 4. Outside and Offline. Next comes the letter O, which stands for outside and offline. As the name suggests, this part invites us to disconnect with our digital life and connect to nature. Nature has unique transformative benefits. In the early 1990s, Japanese researchers began looking into the claims of health benefits surrounding a pastime known as Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing. In this practice, instead of walking on a treadmill at the gym, people were asked to take a walk in the forest as a form of preventive health care. What the research found was shocking. Walking in the woods as opposed to on a treadmill was remarkably more effective at improving mood, while lowering blood pressure and cortisol levels. They also noted decreased fatigue, tension, and anger among research participants. There's also the evidence gleaned from analyzing the data of over 20,000 users of the Mappiness app, who periodically entered their mood and activity while the app recorded GPS and weather data. Correlating and analyzing the data showed that people were unhappiest while at work, sick in bed, or commuting to work, and that they were happiest while in nature, especially when close to water. Interestingly, happiness levels in mountains were about 2.7 points higher than in urban areas, while those in coastal areas were generally 6 points higher than in urban areas. The author says there is a biological reason behind this, which is known as biophilia. The imprint of 1 million years of living among natural sounds means that our brains process natural sights and sounds in a different way to man-made. Hence, when we expose ourselves to nature, like forests or flowers, our body will relax and the immune system, which was lowered under stress, would recover. Also, medical research has shown that trees emit something called phytoncides, which are essential oils that actively protect trees from microbes that could harm them. When people breathe in these phytoncides, they spur healthy biological changes in us, as we receive an immunity boost and thereby feel healthier. Next, the author talks about human susceptibility to conditioning. Interaction with our smartphones is akin to gambling on a slot machine. The entire process is controlled by an operational conditioning known as intermittent variable rewards. What this essentially means is that the system we are interacting with promises rewards that are inconsistent. That is, they might be big or small. This uncertainty keeps us from getting bored of the system, and our curiosity is maintained. As a result, people end up picking up their phones about 150 times a day on average, checking how many likes their latest Instagram or Facebook post has racked up, or scouting for a funny new meme. The downside of the situation, as shown in multiple studies in the US and Europe, is that too much time online leads to feelings of isolation, stress, depression, and insomnia. Part 5. Connect with others. While we all need and enjoy some me time in an otherwise busy world, nobody wants to feel lonely. What's more, loneliness has some disturbing mental and health effects as well. Persistent loneliness can cause severe trauma from stress and increase blood pressure, in addition to making us prone to diabetes and heart attack. Researchers have found that loneliness increases a person's chances of death by 29%, while social isolation increases that chance by 26%, and living alone by 32%. In fact, loneliness is deadlier than type 2 diabetes or smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That brings us to the next item on the story's checklist: relationships. Investing in healthy relationships is one of the best ways to spend our time. We all know that healthy relationships make us happy, prevent loneliness, and help us to cultivate meaningful and sometimes transformative life experiences. The main idea here is to do something interesting with someone interesting. Depending on our proclivities, we can choose our company accordingly. For example, whether we like outdoor sports like football or basketball, or indoor sports like chess or video games, we can always find someone like-minded to share our interests. On the other hand, if we are more solitary in nature and prefer activities like meditating or reading, we may try joining a book club or a meditation center, where we have more chances of meeting like-minded people and forming meaningful relationships with them. Part 6. Intensity and flow. Next, the author talks about the concept of flow. Also known as being in the zone, flow is whenever we completely immerse ourselves in whatever we are doing, enjoying the process of it through an energized state of focus. Research has shown that some of our happiest moments are when we experience flow. The author suggests that we make an effort to learn what hobbies or interests help us feel flow, and then focus on those activities during our leisure time. This brings us to the item intensity on the checklist. When we pursue our interests and transformative experiences, it's important for us to include a certain amount of intensity. If the tasks are too easy, we'll get bored soon. If they're too difficult, we'll become frustrated. The ideal task would be one which is just above our typical level of mastery, thereby motivating our brains to beat our personal best, and when we have achieved that, filling us with a sense of accomplishment. It's important to remember here that while activities like playing video games, binge-watching TV series, or digging into social media may make us oblivious to what's happening around us and suck out hours from our lives, they don't provide us with any transformative or meaningful life experiences. These type of activities induce a false feeling of flow in us. Hence, the author terms it as fake flow. So, how to differentiate between real flow and fake flow? Well, real flow requires us to put in true, intense effort in order to receive the reward at the end, whereas fake flow gives us the illusion of enjoyment and accomplishment without having to put in any effort. So, where can we find such real flow-inducing experiences? Well, playing sports is one of the best ways to experience flow. Also, engaging in activities like writing, carpentry, or playing an instrument can help us experience flow. Part 7. Beginnings, Peaks and Ends. Next, the author talks about the item extraordinary on the checklist. Simply stated, we should always seek extraordinary experiences in order to make life more enjoyable. However, determining how memorable an event is depends on some peak moments as well as the ending of that experience. Psychologists have termed this effect the peak end rule. Essentially, it means that we might have an unpleasant experience for a certain period of time, but if the experience turns pleasant towards the end, we are likely to look back at the overall experience as not unpleasant. In other words, even though the experience was mostly annoying, we'll remember it as being pleasant enough because of how it ended or how it peaked. Having said that, it doesn't mean we need to pack every day with as many peak moments as we can in order to cultivate an extraordinary experience. We can find extraordinary moments in our everyday life by simply shifting our priorities and awareness of each moment. We all have different needs and preferences. Therefore, we need to find the right balance that works for each of us. Part 8. Status and Significance. All societies contain hierarchies of some sort, and wherever there is a hierarchy, there are people of different status. We commonly associate status with extraordinary things, like having an absurd amount of money or being a celebrity of some sort. But the author observes that neither of these things are true measures of status. Rather, status is determined by our perception of ourselves, not what others think of us. According to the author, there are two primary ways for gaining status. Gaining status through education and gaining status through money. We generally perceive that social status can bring us happiness, as it seems that social status grants a certain amount of power and advantages in life. According to a University of Cambridge study, 3 things can lead someone to flourish in life: control, capabilities, and social participation. And the way we increase these 3 things is by attaining more education, money, and power, the 3 elements of status. We've often heard the saying that knowledge is power, and the author believes that this is absolutely true. The more educated we are, the more we are qualified for better and more diverse opportunities. As a result, we have better access to new jobs, experiences, and leadership positions. Attaining higher positions results in us earning more money, which in turn grants us access to a host of new experiences. This leads to more chances for social engagement, which in turn can lead to increased happiness. So, what kinds of experiences can contribute to higher status in life? One of the best things we can do is to get higher education in order to become more of an expert in our field. Travel is also a great way to gain more knowledge through transformative experiences, as we visit more places, do new things, and go on more adventures. As for social participation, it might simply mean that we are an influential figure in our workplace or community, and that we have the power to make a positive impact on the lives of those around us. This might include joining a local committee or just networking with more colleagues and peers. In conclusion, time and how to spend it helps us realize that time is the single most valuable commodity we have, yet we either spend it poorly or mismanage it, or just let it slip away. However, we can win back control over our time by prioritizing experiences that add meaning to our lives and transform us in a positive way. We can also follow the story's checklist while evaluating and prioritizing our experiences. This book becomes our guide to becoming more productive by not focusing on working extra hours, but instead using the leisure time more effectively by doing things that truly matter and thus creating a truly satisfying life. Thank you for watching this episode. Please don't forget to subscribe. See you soon in our next episode.